to buy first or to sell first. First world problems, hey? But if you're in that situation, it can be really, really tricky. Because you know what? A bridging loan is treacherous. If you don't get it right, it can cost you a ton of money and add unnecessary stress to what should be a happy experience. So if you want to find some tips, tricks and advice, watch the rest of this video. Bridging loans are complex and difficult, but a necessary means if you're in this situation. So perhaps can someone give some tips and tricks and pitfalls or advice to those people out there that are looking to upgrade to their next home? What should they be looking out for, and what are some of the things that they need to be wary of if they do end up needing to get a bridging loan to get them between having purchased their next home and actually completing the settlement and sale of their existing home?
Yeah. Firstly, before I get into that, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Okay. We've already covered that they try, as you say, James, try and tie things in. However, in circumstances like lockdowns, like you've said, might even be a situation where you've building another home while you haven't sold your existing property. These delays. Now, bridging loans are tricky. Number one, they're more expensive than traditional loans. So you've got to be sure that you're aware of this. Number one, the interest rate on bridging loans, it's not straightforward. These are calculated on a daily basis. So you're paying a lot more. It's calculated on a daily basis, but then paid monthly. So be aware of that. It's a very, very important thing. The other one,
the power of compounding we always talk about.
Yep.
That you're saying effectively, doesn't matter so much about the interest rate. Might only seem a slight bit more expensive than your typical loan, but it compounding every single day means that it gets bigger and bigger by the end of the month.
Yes, so bridging loans are tricky in that respect. You might think you're going to be aware that bridging loans, it's compounded daily. So,
and you need a degree in Microsoft Excel to be able to figure that out, don't you?
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's the other thing. The other thing is, again, be sure, because of that and other factors, because things are is allow for more payments than what you think you're going to be paying. So, what happens, for instance, if the house you wanted to sell didn't quite fetch the price you expected, allow for that shortfall and then some extra payments.
I guess as well, Greg, on the flip side,
the
buyer of your house might be upgrading their house, so they're wanting a longer settlement to tie all that up. So
tie up.
Just as you tried to do it, I guess you've got to factor in that, a normal 60, 90-day settlement, you might need to allow for 120, 150-day settlement because that person's trying to avoid a bridging loan themselves.
Always factor in, rather put more, as I call, more fat in there than what you need, so that you're not on a thin edge. The other issue as well, with your bridging finance, make sure you understand the default sections. Okay, and be very, very careful about that. There might even be that you think you want a bridging loan for 6 months, but you end up selling your house in 6 months and 2 days. However, there's a default in the contract that says after 6 months, you're now in default and the lender can sell your home. So make sure.
It's a little harsh, doesn't it?
But I say, check the wording of the default to make sure that that's not in there. Another thing is LVRs, loan value to lendings. Make sure that the combined property, usually they're looking at about 70%. So that you can accommodate that sort of thing. Fees, check out the fees. Again, we looked at the interest rates daily. Have a look. There could be a lot of fees in there. Make sure that the lender that you're using is not hammering you with fees. Other few other things I was thinking here. Yes, check that your lender might allow you to freeze your payments or capitalize them. So try find the lender that's going to be flexible in that. Now, if your current lender doesn't do bridging loans, so this freezing could happen if your current lender does it. If it doesn't happen, then you might need to switch lender, but that might then trigger the break fees on your previous lender. So just be aware of these pitfalls. At the end of the day, my final thing is to say, if you can avoid it, avoid it. So those are the sort of the key things. There are some big pitfalls, but as long as you cover that, because of circumstances that you've found your perfect house, you don't want to lose it, or like I said, renovations, whatever it is, then this can be an option to go to look at, but with those in mind, those particular points.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing more stressful as well as exciting as buying a new home. And you want to have that balance, that you don't end up being so stressed out by it that you lose that joy and so forth of having a new home and getting what you really wanted because you're so stressed out about the fine print in these. So I guess Greg's simple advice is avoid it, and then you don't need to know. Not always practical. So I guess, just think about what he said. If you are in that position, check the recording on YouTube and just write out that checklist that Greg ran through, because there's a lot of gold pieces of nuggets there that really help you navigate through that in a safe and hopefully less stressful way.